Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that's been making waves in the tech world, ChatGPT, and how it can be a total game changer if you're a software developer.
What's really cool about ChatGPT is that it's not just a piece of software.
Right.
It's more like having a super intelligent coding partner who's always
Uh-huh.
there to help you with those tricky challenges.
Totally. I think for a lot of developers, just the idea of having that extra support, especially when you're stuck on a problem, is like incredibly appealing.
Let's start with the basics. ChatGPT is known for its ability to actually generate code. Is it
Mhm.
really as simple as describing what you need and it spits out the code for you?
It can be that straightforward,
Yeah.
especially for common tasks. Imagine you need, let's say, a Python function to validate an email address.
Okay.
You tell ChatGPT, hey, I need a function that checks if an email address is valid, and it will generate a solid starting point for you.
Wow, so it takes care of that initial legwork. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it can handle more complex stuff too, right?
Oh, absolutely. What about creating a REST API in Node.js? Could ChatGPT actually help me with that?
For sure. Let's say you're building an API for an online store.
Hmm.
You can feed ChatGPT your desired endpoints like products or orders, along with your data models and authentication requirements. And ChatGPT can then generate a basic structure for your API, including route handling, database interactions, and even security implementations.
So it's like having that scaffolding already set up.
It is. It's like having that scaffolding for your project, allowing you to focus on the unique business logic.
That sounds like it could save a ton of time. So we've got code generation, but what about debugging? I mean, that's where I personally spend a lot of my time just trying to figure out why my code isn't working.
Oh, I feel you. Debugging can be a real pain, but imagine this. You're working on a complex algorithm and you keep getting, let's say, a segmentation fault.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of spending hours poring over your code, you can feed the relevant code snippet and error logs to ChatGPT. It can then analyze the problem, often pinpointing the exact line of code causing the issue.
Wait, hold on. Is it actually intelligent enough to analyze error logs and figure out what's going wrong?
Mhm.
It's not just looking for like syntax errors, right?
It goes way beyond syntax. ChatGPT's been trained on a massive amount of code, so it can actually identify logical errors and suggest potential fixes based on patterns it's learned from other code bases.
So it's like having a senior developer looking over your shoulder and kind of offering those insights.
Exactly. Insights based on years of experience.
That's pretty impressive. So it's like having an extra pair of super-powered debugging eyes, but it can also generate code from scratch.
Hmm.
Is there anything this thing can't do?
Hmm.
What about documentation? That's another task that I know a lot of developers, myself included, tend to put off.
Documentation. The necessary evil. But ChatGPT can be a game changer here too. Imagine you've just finished writing a really complex function.
Yeah.
Instead of manually documenting every parameter and return value, you can ask ChatGPT to generate a documentation template for you. And it will analyze your code and create clear, concise descriptions, even highlighting potential edge cases you might have missed.
So it's not just saving time, but also potentially improving the quality of our documentation.
Exactly. It's a win-win. And think about creating read-m files for your projects.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of struggling to articulate your project's purpose and set up instructions, ChatGPT can generate a well-structured read-m based on your input, saving you time and ensuring consistency.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could really seriously change the way that I work. It's like having this AI assistant who's handling all the tedious stuff, freeing me up to focus on like the more creative aspects of development.
That's the beauty of it. ChatGPT empowers you to work smarter, not harder. It's like having a tireless coding companion who helps you write better code, find and fix bugs faster, and produce top-notch documentation.
This is all sounding really powerful, but I'm also curious about how ChatGPT actually works. Is it magic?
Right.
How does it understand what I'm asking and generate code that actually makes sense?
It's not magic, although it can feel like it sometimes. At its core, ChatGPT is based on what's called a large language model.
Okay.
Imagine a massive neural network that's been trained on an enormous data set of text and code.
Okay, so it's learned from reading millions of lines of code and text.
Exactly. This training allows it to understand the nuances of human language and the intricacies of different programming languages.
Got it.
So when you ask it to, let's say, write a function in Java, it can leverage its knowledge of Java syntax and best practices to generate code that's not just syntactically correct, but also well-structured and efficient.
So it's not just blindly copying code snippets, it's actually understanding the underlying logic.
That's right. It's using statistical analysis to predict the most likely next word or line of code based on the context you provide.
Oh, that makes sense. So now that we've got a little bit of a grasp on what ChatGPT is and how it works, let's talk about actually using it. I want to start experimenting with ChatGPT. What's the first step?
Well, you'll need to create an account. The good news is it's a quick and easy process. You can sign up through their website or even through their mobile app.
Okay, so once I'm in, what's the interface like? Is it intimidating or pretty user-friendly?
It's designed to be very intuitive.
Okay.
You basically have a chat window where you can type in your requests or questions, and ChatGPT responds in real time. It's like having a conversation with a very knowledgeable coding buddy.
That's good to hear. So let's say I'm ready to start using ChatGPT for a real project. Are there any tips for getting the most out of it?
Well, one of the most important things is to be clear and specific with your requests.
Right.
Remember, ChatGPT is a tool, and the quality of its output depends on the quality of your input. So instead of just saying, help with Java, be precise.
Right.
For instance, you could say, write a function in Java to sort an array of integers using the quicksort algorithm. The more detail you provide, the better it can understand your needs.
Right, it's like giving clear instructions to a contractor. The more detail you provide up front, the better the results will be. But I'm guessing it's not always perfect, right? What happens if ChatGPT seems to be misunderstanding my requests or gives me code that doesn't quite work?
Well, first of all, it's important to remember that AI is still evolving.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is powerful, but it's not infallible. Sometimes, especially with complex requests, you might need to break down your problem into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Oh.
Instead of asking for a complete solution at once, try requesting elements one by one. This can help ChatGPT better understand your intent and deliver more accurate results.
That makes sense. It's about guiding it through the process step by step. And what about those times when it just seems to be stuck or unresponsive? Any tips for troubleshooting those situations?
Of course. Like any online platform, ChatGPT can occasionally experience downtime or slowdowns due to high traffic. In those cases, the best thing to do is be patient and try refreshing your browser.
Okay.
If the problem persists, you can always check their status page for updates.
So patience is key. And I guess it's also important to remember that it's a tool, not a magic wand.
Right.
It's not going to solve every coding problem instantly, but it can certainly be a powerful ally in our development journey.
Absolutely. And the more you use it, the better you'll understand its strengths and limitations. It's a learning process for both you and the AI.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. I'm already starting to see how ChatGPT could fit into my workflow and potentially save me a lot of time and frustration. But I'm also curious about the bigger picture. How might the rise of tools like ChatGPT impact the future of software development? We'll dive into those questions in the next part of our deep dive.
You know, it's fascinating to think about like the ripple effects ChatGPT is having on the software development landscape. We've talked about the immediate benefits like boosting productivity and code quality. But I think this goes way beyond just making our jobs easier.
Yeah, I agree. There's this sense that we're on the verge of a major shift in how software is created. Like we're standing at the edge of a new frontier, and ChatGPT is one of the tools that's going to help us explore it.
Yeah, it almost feels like a natural evolution. We've automated so many aspects of our lives already, and now we're starting to automate like the more creative aspects of development.
Right. Like if I can offload those tedious parts of coding, debugging, and documentation to ChatGPT, that frees up my mental energy to focus on, the things that really require human ingenuity.
Exactly. It's like we're leveling up as developers. Instead of getting bogged down in those nitty-gritty details, we can leverage AI to handle those aspects and then focus on the higher level design, like the innovation.
So are we talking about a future where software developers become more like architects, designing the blueprints for these complex systems while AI handles the actual construction?
That's a great analogy. I think we're moving in that direction. Developers are going to need to become more adept at understanding and articulating the big picture, defining the goals and constraints of a project, and then guiding AI tools like ChatGPT to actually bring that vision to life.
That raises a really interesting question. What skills are going to be the most valuable for developers in this AI-powered future? Is it still important to master specific programming languages, or are we shifting towards something else?
Well, knowing how to code will always be important, but I think the emphasis is going to shift more toward more conceptual and strategic skills. We'll need to be excellent communicators, able to clearly articulate our ideas to both humans and AI.
So it's understanding how to bridge that gap between human intention and AI execution.
Mm,
We'll need to become fluent in the language of AI.
exactly. We need to be able to speak to these AI tools in a way that they understand, providing them with the right level of context and detail so they can generate the outcomes we desire.
I imagine this also means being able to critically evaluate the output of these AI tools, right? Just because ChatGPT generates a piece of code doesn't mean it's always the best solution.
You're absolutely right. Critical thinking will be paramount. We need to develop a discerning eye, being able to spot potential issues in AI-generated code, understanding its limitations, and ultimately making that final call on what's best for our projects.
So it's not about blindly trusting the AI, it's about working in tandem with it, using our human judgment and experience to guide it and refine its output.
I like to think of it as a collaborative partnership. ChatGPT brings its vast knowledge and computational power to the table, while we humans contribute our creativity, intuition, and understanding of the nuances of the real world.
It's fascinating to think about the possibilities that open up when you combine those two forces. I mean, if we can leverage AI to handle those more repetitive and time-consuming aspects of development, what's left for us to focus on?
That's where the truly exciting stuff begins. We can dedicate more of our time to solving complex problems, designing those elegant architectures, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible with software.
It almost feels like AI is giving us the gift of time, allowing us to kind of step back from the daily grind
Hmm.
and engage in more strategic and creative endeavors.
Yeah, I see it as an opportunity to reclaim the joy of software development. It's about rediscovering that sense of wonder and exploration that drew us to this field in the first place.
You know, before we started this deep dive, I'll admit I had some mixed feelings about ChatGPT. Part of me was excited about the potential, but another part of me was a little apprehensive, maybe even a little scared.
I think that's a natural reaction to any disruptive technology. It's easy to get caught up in the hype or the fear, but the truth usually lies somewhere in between.
Right. And what we're seeing with ChatGPT is that it's not a replacement for human developers. It's an augmentation.
Yeah.
It's a tool that can help us become better, more efficient, and ultimately more creative in our work.
The key is to embrace it as a partner, not a competitor, to approach it with a sense of curiosity and experimentation, and to see it as an extension of our own capabilities.
This has been an incredible journey so far, and I'm already starting to see the potential of ChatGPT, but we haven't talked about the practicalities of actually integrating it into our workflows.
Mm.
How can developers get started with ChatGPT, like in a tangible way?
Yeah.
Let's explore that in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into ChatGPT for software developers. We've talked about its capabilities, its potential impact on the future of how we code, and the importance of embracing this new AI-powered landscape. But let's get down to the practical stuff. For developers who are ready to start actually incorporating ChatGPT into their daily work, where do they begin?
Well, that's a million-dollar question, right? Fortunately, getting started with ChatGPT is actually relatively straightforward. It all boils
Yeah.
down to a few key steps. First, you got to familiarize yourself with the platform.
Sign up for an account, explore the interface, get a feel for how ChatGPT responds to different types of prompts.
Right, like take it for a test drive.
Exactly.
You wouldn't buy a car without taking it for a spin first,
Yeah.
right? So explore the features, play around with some prompts, see how it reacts.
Yeah, think of it as a learning process for both you and for ChatGPT. As you interact with it more, you'll start to understand its nuances, how to best leverage its strengths for your specific needs.
Okay, so let's say I've created an account and I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the interface. What's next? How do I actually start using ChatGPT for real coding tasks?
Well, here's where things get really interesting. You want to start by identifying areas in your workflow where ChatGPT could be the most help. Are you spending way too much time on boilerplate code?
Hmm.
Are you struggling to write clear documentation? Or maybe you're hitting a wall with a particularly tricky debugging challenge?
So it's about being strategic
Yeah.
and identifying those pain points where ChatGPT can really make a difference. Don't try to use it for everything at once. Focus on those tasks where it can really provide the most value.
Precisely. And once you've identified a task, break it down into smaller, well-defined steps. Remember, ChatGPT works best when you give it clear and concise instructions. Instead of asking it to build an entire website, start with a specific component, like create a responsive navigation menu in HTML and CSS.
Okay. It's about giving ChatGPT these, like, manageable chunks of work that it can easily understand and execute.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to experiment. Try different approaches. See what works best for you. Refine your prompts as you go along.
Absolutely. The beauty of ChatGPT is that it's constantly learning and evolving. So the more you use it, the better it's going to become at understanding your specific needs and providing tailored solutions.
It's almost like training a junior developer.
It is.
You guide them, provide feedback, and gradually they become more capable and independent.
That's a great way to put it. And just like a junior developer, ChatGPT can actually benefit from, constructive criticism.
Yeah.
If it generates some code that's not quite right, don't just dismiss it. Take the time to kind of explain why it's not working, provide examples of what you're looking for, and help it learn from its mistakes.
It's that feedback loop that helps both the AI and the developer grow and improve. And I imagine that as ChatGPT becomes, more integrated into our workflows, we'll see this whole new ecosystem of tools and resources kind of emerge to support this collaboration.
Oh, I completely agree. We're already seeing extensions for code editors, specialized libraries for interacting with ChatGPT, even platforms that leverage ChatGPT to automate entire development processes. This is just the beginning.
It's exciting to think about where this might all lead. I mean, if we can harness the power of AI to streamline development, reduce those errors, and free up our time to focus on the more creative aspects of coding, who knows what amazing innovations we might create.
That's the beauty of it all, isn't it? It's about pushing those boundaries of what's possible, exploring those new frontiers, and using technology to really unlock our full potential as developers. And ChatGPT is just one piece of that puzzle.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of ChatGPT for software developers. We've explored its capabilities, its limitations, and its potential to really transform the way that we all code. But ultimately, the most important takeaway is this: ChatGPT is a tool. And like any tool, its effectiveness depends on the skill and the creativity of the person who's using it.
So my advice to all the developers out there is this: don't be afraid to experiment, to push those boundaries and see what amazing things you can create when you combine the power of your own mind with the power of artificial intelligence.
That's a fantastic note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and maybe even a little bit mind-blowing. Until next time, happy coding, everyone.